So did you know that you and I are kind of having an anniversary today? It's podcast number 15 for you and I.
That's a big deal. We've made it. I read some stat that if you can get past like 3 episodes, you're in the top like 80 or 90%. So,
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, just 15 with you, not counting all the
yeah,
other silly things I've done. Did you know we'd been together that long?
did not know that. No. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So I had no idea.
Yeah, so let's see, we started what? Like fall of 23?
It was
Is that right?
fall of 23, and then we probably got our first podcast together was probably winter, like maybe, I don't know, November, December of 23, I would guess. But I can't remember when we actually got on mic.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to open today thinking about that. It's been a couple months since we've gotten to do this, and a a student slash friend of mine named Jude, who I believe wanted to be called out on the podcast. Hey, Jude. Uh, he was sad that you and I hadn't been together in a while. So you had texted literally why he and I were talking about this in our lesson. It was very, very bizarre. But I was kind of reflecting on this project, and I just want to say, like, when I set out to do this, it's now over 2 years ago that I was writing and publishing this book. And I had this idea for the podcast that I wanted to tell a real improvement story or multiple improvement stories in tandem. And I, am so happy that you've chose to do this because the story is playing out almost exactly as I had hoped. It has really been a pleasure for me to see, the fact that you basically, more than cut your handicap in half in 2024. And now we're entering kind of a new phase or new chapter of the story that I think has considerable value both for you and the six people who listen. It, I just want to say it means a lot that you take this time out, and I'm very, very happy that we're still doing it.
Yeah, me too. And I owe you quite a bit because first of all, I mean, your instruction got me cutting the handicap in half. It allowed me to enjoy golf last year in a way that I've never enjoyed it in the 30 years I played it. And then you've also grounded me in reality and kind of let me know that, hey, look, the next phase, if you get there, is going to require that much more effort. But I think the cool part is that and we'll talk about it more in the next hour here, I'm realizing that I may not get to that phase as easily as I did from phase one to phase two, but I can still enjoy the game where I am now in a way that I didn't ever before. So I owe you a bunch of thanks here as well because it's completely changed my whole perspective on the approach, not only to playing but also like improving. So it's been great.
Hmm. Well, yeah, you're too kind. I couldn't ask for a better partner in this. We have to get into your golf, and we will. We're going to talk a lot about what you've been doing because I actually don't know. You have texted me a couple of rounds. Honestly, I you don't utilize my phone number enough. I get almost zero texts. When I get yours, I'm happy to get them. So don't be shy. They're great to get. We're going to talk about your golf. You got to play a world famous golf course, and we're going to hold that off towards the end. It was an experience, I'm sure you could say.
Very true. Yeah, we'll just tease that that's a top, according to all the golf course ranking folk, that's a top 20 course for what that means in the country. So yeah, I think it was a bucket list once in a lifetime experience. So yeah, we'll delve into that a little bit later.
Okay, good. So about a month ago, so we had been on kind of a sequence of doing one of these about once a month, and about a month ago, you reached out, and we keep a shared document about topics we're going to talk about. But the main thing we're trying to do is do kind of a live non-swing coaching session. But you text me and you said, hey, how about we talk about goals, and you berate me and tell me how silly I am. And my reaction to this was, fuck yes, that sounds amazing. because when you brought up the word goals, I was triggered to think of the book. And I found the section in the book where I wrote about this. I mean, it was all kind of through it a little, but there's a dedicated section, I think, called Bad Goals. And I reread this like page and a half, and I am almost pissing myself laughing, right, as I'm reading this. So I screenshot, I think it's page 241 or something. I screenshot this, send it to you, and say, dude, if you want to talk to me publicly about goals, like that is like my dream come true. And then I never heard from you again. So catch me up. What happened? I thought we were going to chit chat about
Yeah,
goals.
that's great. And I knew, and I think I even used this phrase in the text, but I think I said I knew that'd be catnip for you because I knew you would just
Oh,
love to go
totally.
off on that. But yeah, I think I told you that my intent was here that now that well, let's go all the way back foundationally. My Twitter handle when I reinvented myself on Twitter and opened that thing up when I was 36 or whatever during COVID when I had nothing else to do was squats to scratch. The idea being that I think I set it up on my 36th birthday. I set that account up. Now I have a whopping 45 followers. And my goal was to get from, at the time, I was an 8, 9 ish handicap, get to scratch by the time I was 40. And I was going to document the journey both weightlifting and progressing in the weight room and getting stronger, and golf focused, right? Getting down from 8 or 9 to 0. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know you at the time. In fact, I didn't even follow you at the time. You came up in my algorithm, which credit to Elon and the folks at X for putting you in front of me. But so the next logical step in my non-professional golfer mind or non-teaching pro mind is, well, I went from 8 to 4 in 2024. So let's go from 4 to 2 or 4 to 1 in 2025, right? It should be just that easy. I knocked it in half in 12 months. Let's do it again. Now, having read your book, I certainly recall and understand that you feel as though it's not quite that easy. And I will tell you, a month into my 2025 golf season, I'm quickly realizing that it's not that easy. But yeah, I wanted to actually get you on mic and have you kind of talk about the difficulties that I'm going to face here. And I had texted you that before realizing how difficult it was going to be. That was back, I think I had maybe played once when I texted that. I've now played 3 or 4 more times since then. And it turns out that
Mm-hmm.
it is tougher than I expected and probably right in line with what you preach. So yeah, feel free to let's hear it. Tell me why I'm so off here.
Okay, yeah. So what you said tougher than you had expected. Add some color to that. What exactly have you experienced?
Well, I've played. Let's leave the round last week at the top 20 course aside.
Yeah,
I've played at my
yeah.
home course 3 times now. Uh, we'll put the. I mean, I shot 77 the first day. Thought it'd be a world beater, be great, and then I think I've shot 82, 80 the other times I've played.
Mm-hmm.
So
As a
as
four
a
point something, right?
4.2, I think is what I was.
Well, you ended last year with like an average around like 79
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Is that
that's
right?
exactly right. So I'm right where I was. I guess I would like to think, and you and I talked about it, and we made another joke that I think my shitty rounds, the first number starts with an 8,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then my good rounds, the first number
Yeah.
starts with a 7, right? So if I can shoot in the 70s, I'm happy. But in my,
Yeah.
pea brain, if I shoot 80 or above, it's a sucky round. And that's a ridiculous way to think about things. I mean, there's so much variance in the game. There's so much, one bad bounce off a tree versus a good bounce off a tree is the difference between a double bogey and a par.
Mm,
Hit a lot of good putts that lip out. I mean, there's all kinds of variables there, but nonetheless, that's how things work in my head, and so
yeah, it does
it
feel that
does.
way. I know
Right,
I've
right,
experienced it for
yeah.
sure.
So when and the reality of it is, I haven't. I have the tags on the back of my clubs. I could start tracking my shots, my strokes gained here, if I wanted to figure out where I'm losing strokes. But I
Nah.
just I don't have the time, and we can get into this. We talked about it a little bit before we started. I don't have the time to devote to the level of practice that I did with you in late 23 and all of 24 because I'm not working from home anymore. And my kids are way, way, way more heavily involved in things, and I'm at ball fields and at basketball courts and whatnot way more often during the week than hanging out at home, where I can sneak into my, and I know I'm spoiled because I have a simulator room, but where I can sneak in there and even get that 20 or 30 minutes. I just don't have the time that I did before. So I need to expect a plateau. I need to plan on that happening, but it's still not fun to do that because I want to continue to get better. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah, no, so you said two things I want to
Yeah.
talk about, the kind of the average thing and the 82, and you said expect a plateau. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about so you sent me the 77. We were digitally high-fiving, first round of the year. It's like I'm sure that felt great, shooting below average for your first round out. And then, a week or two later, right, 82. And conditions were a little tougher, right? It was breezy, if I remember
And
correct.
soaking wet. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So soggy,
Yeah.
shitty, right? Okay. So let's just say for the sake of argument that your 2024 average was 79.0, right? If that was where you ended your scoring average, right? With a handicap of 4 point something and change.
4.2, I think, is where I ended last year.
Okay, 4.2 and 79. Yeah, real cool that USGA has made this gap spread even wider by going from 10 of 20 to 8 of 20.
Yes.
That was real
Yeah.
neat of them. Thanks, bros. Okay, so your average score, let's say 79.0 in October of 2024, is not going to be your average score in April of 2025. Right? If we had enough years of you with this, like, say, upgraded motor patterns, right? What we probably see is that your average in April, because you're in a seasonal situation, is probably much closer to, I would guess, 81 than it is 79. Which means that your 82 in shit conditions, if you adjusted for difficulty, might very well be you played average, as in you're in the 50th percentile. And like, while I agree the 50th percentile, even if we can analytically get there, is meh. I mean, it's literally average, right? Uh, Average doesn't cut it for guys like you and me. Fuck that, right?
Exactly.
And especially if it feels like considerably worse than average, which it should feel that way to you, given the types of scores you were posting all last year, multiple 71s, I think. You're going to have to give me strokes, by the way. Just going to glide that in there. So that's one thing. And even if your scoring average was 79 and you shot 82, it's like your standard deviation, is probably close to 4, which means you're still in the first standard deviation, which means nothing interesting has happened yet. And I have to tell myself this every time I lose, $1,000 at the poker table, right? It's like, nothing's happened, asshole. Like, you're still in this goes on all the time. So, and golf is kind of the same way. You said this other thing about expecting a plateau. I want to dig into your volume after we kind of finish this goals section, but like, I think what we're going to discover is that you should expect like atrophy or decline.
Damn it.
Like if you made me set an over under, or if like we wanted to have a pool for this year on like Zach's October handicap in 2025, like my guess, just based on the little that I know, is that the line I would put it at is probably going to be in the like mid to high fives, is where I would say bet even money. But that's, now whether you view that as good or bad is of course purely subjective and kind of a large part of my messaging overall.
Fair. I'm gonna fight that tooth and nail for the rest of the golf season. But yeah, whatever. Like I said, I come to you to first of all help me improve, but then also give me realistic expectations. So you're 2 for 2 there, my man.
Hmm. Well, we can start. We should start a betting pool. You can bet the other side of it if you want. I've always like Sorry, we'll just go on a tangent
Yeah.
for a second. I don't gamble against strangers in golf. Right? I have a rule against it. I don't even fucking play with strangers anymore. But like when I did, I am vehemently against it. And because most people are fucking cheaters. And so I'm not trying to give anybody a big edge. One fantasy I've had about golf betting that I would love to play out sometime in my life, maybe you can do it on my behalf or some of the listeners can. It's like next time you find yourself in a situation where somebody wants to bet and you don't really know them and you're not really comfortable, just offer to bet their own score against themselves. So it's say like, I'll watch you play the front nine, and then I'll handicap you on the back, and I'll try to set an even money line per hole, and we can bet whatever you want per hole, and I'm going to adjust every single hole, right? And so you just move the line around based on however full of shit they may or may
Sure.
not have
Yeah.
been. But my expectation of this fantasy is that it is actually a fantasy, and that nobody will ever take this action ever, because most golfers are selfish cunts who only want like action they feel like they have an edge in,
Sure.
unless they're just, genuinely nice guys who like to gamble and don't really care. It's just cost of doing business. Anyway, you think you can get anybody at your club to take that
No,
action?
I don't, and I, I don't. The only reason I gamble on the course is just to keep myself interested in case I like am out of. I mean, if I shoot like a 45 on the front or something, I think if I don't have any money on the line in the back, then I would just mail it in, right? But I mean,
Well, you could test that
I,
hypothesis.
I probably could, and I'm sure I've done that in the past. Now that I'm capable of sort of turning it around and breaking par on any given nine, which I've done a handful of times, maybe I'd be more interested. But I always tell myself that if I've got playing a 10-10-10 Nassau game or something, then at least I have something to play for on the back, so that keeps me more engaged. But yeah, I don't, and I've got the opposite problem with this handicap now. I mean, I only get 3 strokes on my home course, and I've played a couple. Yeah, I
Rigged.
know. I've played a couple team money games, and I tell my partners candidly before we start, like, look, that's not enough. I mean, I'm gonna be good for 1 or 2 birdies on the par fives and a handful of pars for you, and everything else. You guys who actually get pops are gonna have to score for us because
Mm-hmm.
the chances of me shooting 75 or below. I mean, you could do the actual statistical probability, but it's not that high, and so the chances of me breaking my handicap. For you guys is going to be pretty slim here. And I mean, the guys I play with are buddies of mine. We're playing for $20, $30. It's not the end of the world, but still, it is frustrating being on this side where my handicap is actually a true inclination of like my peak, right? I mean if I shoot 75, that's a damn good day. So it's a little different than it used to be where I was capable of being there, but my number was still coming down this time last year. So I was shooting,
Mm.
75, 76, but getting 7 or 8 strokes. That's way, way different.
Let's finalize or maybe publicize the goals, because I know that you did text me about it. I'm curious, do you have anything concrete in mind, anything measurable? I know we've talked in other episodes about specifically the cliche that is scratch, or as I call it, true wizard. Um, do you have any specific 2025 things that, let's say, maybe you had a month ago when you text me, or maybe they've shifted today, or you reread that section of the book and lit it on fire? Where are you with this concept numerically?
So there are 3 that I can think of that are concrete for 25. None of which are getting scratched, by the way. So you can go ahead and write them down. Yes, that's fine. So
Okay, got a
yes,
pencil.
the first the
Ready.
first would be to qualify for our club Ryder Cup, which I'm already sitting in comfortable position there. But basically, high level, top 16 guys. We have season long tournaments, right? This is a Ryder Cup year, so each tournament is worth twice as many points as last year. If last year would have been a Ryder Cup year, I was in the top 10 in points because I won
Hmm.
my match play flight, and then I placed in a couple others, so I would have been fine. But it'll be more difficult this year because obviously my handicap has gone down. So I'm
Yeah.
playing against
Yeah.
better players in the straight up events, and then the stroked events, it's a crapshoot for reasons we just talked about. But
Right,
anyway,
right.
I'd like to be able to qualify for that. So be one of the top 16 point getters to be able to play that event in, I think it's September of 25. Um, the second goal would be to, I guess it's not really qualify, but to be justified in playing in the championship flight of our club championship. Okay, so I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but anybody anybody can sign up for the championship flight. It's a 3-day stroke play tournament, right? But if
Hmm.
you're over 5, you have to basically go meet with the pro so he can explain to you how stupid of an idea it is for you to go play the black tees for 72 hole or 54 holes, right?
How many guys typically play?
Last year I think they had to go find a guy and beg him to play to make 6. I think
Oh,
so we have
so top 10
That's
guaranteed.
exactly right, for sure. Yes, locked for a top 10. We have 50 or
Nice.
60 guys that play in the club championship, but they play in their respective flights, right? So
Yeah.
the actual club champion, I think they scrounged around to get 6 last year. So there have been guys above my handicap that have played in the championship flight. Now they get their ass kicked, but they've done it. But I would like to be in a position, and that's in August of this year, where I can play in that championship flight and not get the look from the pro like, what the hell are you doing, right? So I mean, that's very, very subjective. I don't have a
Okay.
number in mind, but that's
Yeah.
it,
No, that
right?
I understand. And the third one?
Yeah, and then the third one would be our match play. I'm at a different. I won sort of. I guess there's champion and then like A, B, C, D. I won the B flight last year, and now I've moved up. I'm in the A flight now, and there's only like 4 guys in the championship flight. So anyway, I'd like to win it. May be aggressive, but I'd like to compete there. So again, it's not super concrete. I'd like to get
How many rounds
so
does it
that I,
involve?
that's
Is it like a round robin
no,
kind of
it's a
thing? Or?
bracket. There's probably 16 guys in my flight that range from like a 4, like me, up to a 7 maybe is where the cutoff was.
And is it like one and done?
It's one and done, but it's straight up. There's no strokes. So it's
Oh, you're playing
playing.
scratch.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So I may be playing a guy. If he's a 7 and I'm a 4, it doesn't matter. He doesn't get 3 strokes on me. It's an 18-hole match straight up, right?
Ah,
So again, last year I was playing in sort of like the 7 to 10 window maybe, and the matches that
so did you
I
win?
did
I
I
can't
won
remember.
that very
Yeah.
very easily, actually, like to the point where
Hmm.
I didn't feel bad, but by the time I won it, I was like a 5, and I was playing against
Yeah.
guys that had stayed around their 8, 9, 10 range. So I kind of got some looks like,
Nice.
what are we doing here? But I was a legitimate 8 or so when you and I started.
Yeah,
So
right.
this year it's going to be
Okay.
kind of flipped this year because I am a
Oh,
4, should be a 4, and now I'm playing against other guys in that area. So
okay. Well, let's. So, I mean, we'll have an ongoing kind of discussion about how the handicap is trending over the year. And obviously, that'll be front and center in a lot of our conversations. But the okay, so what I hear in those three is like one kind of concrete goal, right? The Ryder Cup thing that we can. It's binary, it happens or it doesn't. You give a shit about it, so you're going to really be trying. When you have the time. Okay, so let me kind of button up the goals thing. So for those people that haven't read the book or know how I feel about this, basically my argument around goals is that they're all more or less ridiculous to the degree that they mask unresolved problems or pretend to be future telling prophecy bullshit, right? It's this idea that like, well, by the end of the year, I want this outcome. And then I say, yeah, okay, well, I can tell you what it's going to take for inputs to do that. Or can I see your calendar? And people are like, fuck you, Jared. Right. And most of what's going on, if you view golf the way I view golf, which is just a giant fantasy camp, right? If you view it as the fantasy camp and you put goals under the fantasy camp umbrella, you see how it kind of fits very well. People like to fantasize about outcomes. The whole fitness industry is wrought with this, right? People want to get to this weight by this date. It's like, okay, well, this is what your kitchen's going to have to look like. And this is what your gym membership is going to cost. And people are like, fuck you, Jared, right? Or whoever is selling this sort of thing. It's the same kind of shit, right? Golf is just a way more fun one than weight loss because of variance. Sometimes people that have no business reaching an outcome reach an outcome. The 1%ers come in sometimes. So there's always going to be a story, right? And so that's kind of my main critique, or the mild kind of disjointed summary of it, is that you have to start with a problem. What problem are you trying to solve, right? And you have to control inputs, right? Design systems around inputs. You don't get to know the outputs ahead of time. That's not how the universe works. So, okay, we won't do too much epistemology. That's maybe for my other podcast. Tune in next Tuesday. Okay, but you were talking about time. Get me caught up. What you said, you've played 3 or 4 rounds of golf. You've switched jobs, so indoor practice has maybe gone away completely, or what's been going on? Give me an idea of the number of reps we've done both on course and off course, say 2025.
Yeah, so this time last year, and really, I guess probably more importantly, the off season last year. So you and I started working in November 23, and then we worked heavily December through April of 20. So December 23 through April of 24, right? So that whole period of time is when I did this, what I consider significant swing change. Ryan Moki, or whatever his name is, didn't think it was, but that was our last podcast. That's when I...
Well, that was, you kind of laid the groundwork.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
The new motor
and that's
patterns.
when I was yanking the ball in my simulator room, figuring things out, reconfiguring the top of my swing, and just top of my backswing rather, just a lot of things. Contrast that with that same time period, sort of Christmas of 24 through today.
24 to 25, yeah.
I'm working from a physical office location at least 4 days a week now, that I wasn't this time last year. So whereas this time last year, I'd need a lunch break or even just a break from client calls or whatever, and I would sneak down to that room and hit balls, maybe just 10 balls, or maybe just work on those positions that you had given me to focus on. I don't have any of that. So I go in there, I would say 2 or 3 days a week. I'm able to hit, let's call each of those sessions somewhere between 15 minutes on the low end to 30, 40 minutes on the high end.
Evenings and weekends?
Yeah,
is that what we're doing?
Evenings and weekends, yes. That's exclusively what it is. And it's just not, that volume, I would say it's in half, maybe even a third of what it was. Now, the beauty of where I am now is it doesn't take me as long, I don't think anyway. This is all just perception.
Yeah, to recalibrate, retune it.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
But I'm not, it doesn't afford me the opportunity to get any better because I'm just, it's maintenance.
All your,
right?
Yeah. All your effort goes into retuning.
Yeah. And that's fine. And honestly, if I stay, if I'm being realistic, and I'll say this out loud just so it's documented, if I stay here at this level, so the 4-ish level, for the rest of my golfing career, or at least where I am like in this phase of life, I will consider that an accomplishment because of everything else I'm juggling professionally, family-wise, business-wise. That's great. One side of my brain thinks that's great, but then the other side, which you and I talked about,
the psychopath side of your
wanting to improve.
brain.
If I'm not getting better, why am I doing this? Like I have to, those are two different sides of my brain that I kind of have to fight off of one another because depending on the day, I may feel like, hey, this is great. I'm maintaining a swing as a 4 handicap, despite the fact that I'm a professional. I've got 3 boys, a wife, all these commitments, and then the other hand, I'm like, well, Why the hell? Okay, you're a 4, so what? You've been a 4 for a year. It's time to be a 3. It's time to be a 2. It's time to get to scratch. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
those are competing areas of my brain that I'll probably always struggle with that. But that's where things are today.
Mm. Okay, so 2 to 3 times a week, evenings and weekends, indoor practice. Any outdoor practice?
No, warming up before a round. I mean, that's my son's out there all the time. I should go out there with him, but if he's out there doing, because I think I've told this on the pod, but I live on the course,
Yeah,
right?
you live
So
close.
he walks across the street basically every day after work or after school for him. I'd like to go after work.
It's funny you call it. I actually call it prison for my child.
Yeah.
Yeah, play dates,
Right,
prison, whatever.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
school.
yeah.
Not it's not really school,
I'd
but that's a whole other
I'd
topic.
love to go out there with him, but I just, by the time I get home from the physical office that I'm in now, the other boys want to hang out. I'm helping with dinner. I'm doing whatever, and now, I'm coaching 2 teams, so I'm off doing that with the other boys, and I. So no, short answer to your question, I'm not practicing outside at all.
Okay, and then rounds wise, were we up to what, 5 this year, or where are we
3
at?
at the home course, and then my top 20 experience
The
last
the
week
away.
is
Okay, and give me a sense of those let's say all 4 rounds, but give me a sense of the pre-round warm up, and how, like, compare and contrast it with the 2 to 3 times a week indoors. Like, talk about how it's different and how it's the same.
Yeah, so the pre-round warm-up is just, I'm lucky if I get out 25, 30 minutes before the round starts. So I also want to devote some time to chipping and putting. So, I mean, I'm working up the bag quickly from 60-degree wedge to driver, right, and hitting maybe 5, 6 balls, skipping clubs, right? I'm not focused on positions. I'm not really even focused on shot shaping. I just want to make sure I can get the ball airborne, and whatever the feels are that day, that's what I'm going to ride with. I don't have time to
Mm-hmm.
perfect that, try to tweak that, try to move it 2 ways. I'm just like, okay, today if this feels like it's going to be a little hookier than normal, I'm going to aim a little bit further right, or just
So pre-round warm up, just getting loose, mostly full speed
yes,
stuff, trying to make good
yeah,
contact, see where the
that's
ball's
exactly
going.
right.
And inside, what are we doing?
Inside, if it's not just hitting 10 balls, like if I actually have time to do a full what I consider practice session, then I start off very slow. I do a lot of that slow motion stuff that you and I had worked on. I start off without a ball, trying to get in the various positions. I can't remember the numbers, you know them, but arm parallel, well,
Your arm parallels
P3,
P3.
yes, and then all the way to the
Yeah.
top, and then
P4.
right, and then back down to arm parallel, and then through. Like I'm trying to do that.
Yep.
Um, then I'll hit some balls with a wedge, very slow, and then gradually work up to. I can only hit irons in that room, so I'll never hit more than a 7-iron. I don't think on
Mm-hmm.
those days, and it's all position focused. If I'm feeling good enough, towards the end I may try to do some shot shaping. I know you think that's stupid, but I think it's fun, so I may try to hit some fades and some draws.
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's what what I think is potentially misguided is trying to play both.
Right, right.
I think practicing manipulating face and path, especially when you're indoors, is a nice drill. Like, go
Yeah.
for it.
So if I get to the end and I
Yeah.
feel like I'm at a position where I have enough control of the club face that I could do that, then I'll goof around with that the last 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, it's mostly slow motion
And then,
work, getting into full speed.
okay. So yeah, you're doing training reps, off speed
Yep.
partials, inside 2 to 3 times a week, evenings,
Yeah.
weekends, and then mostly full speed stuff during your warm ups. Any full speed reps indoors? Do you towards the end of the session, or are they all off speed?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that it was all the training stuff, but no, eventually I want to let it loose and
Oh,
swing, so
no. I think you should be
yeah.
doing. I think you should be doing some full speed stuff, especially towards the end. And honestly, like, in my longer sessions when they do occur, I like to mix it in. So, like, I'll work, partial, slow motion, full speed, like through a club. Then when I switch clubs, kind of reset and go back to partial. Anyway, okay, good. So we're at let's put a number on that because I know that I kind of benchmarked like 10,000 reps and 30 to 40 rounds a year as kind of a minimum to get better. We saw you really get better doing that, right? Granted, we didn't control for volume because you'd never practiced that much, so we don't have a perfect experiment. What I've kind of insinuated for 2025 is that my guess is that you're going to have to be in the kind of 5,000 practice rep range for maintenance work. So yeah, this is my blue calculator. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and let's say 3 times a week, 50 weeks a year, right? So 150 sessions puts us at, so you need somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 balls a session, 50 weeks a year, 3 sessions a week to get to 5K. What do you think? Are we getting there? By the way, I don't care if you do 1,000.
Right. No, I understand.
We're gonna have great content either way.
I'm probably not there. I mean,
Okay.
because I would say it's closer to 2 times a week than 3 that I'm doing that.
Well,
right? So
yeah, I know.
so right. So I mean, I don't think that I'm on pace for 5,000. I think it'd be
Okay.
what's two thirds
Yeah.
of 5,000? 3,400 or something. That's probably
3,000. Yeah.
That's probably close.
Yeah, and of course it's a very generic
Oh,
loose
I know.
guess. Like
Right.
you very well could do it, like with your physique, right? With these shoulders and the pecs,
Sure.
you know
Yes.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with your
Yes.
build and your smile, like you could probably
There you
do it at like
Okay.
3,000 reps.
It's going to be closer
right?
to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, good. So I'm glad you say it's going to be closer to that, as in you don't see yourself changing course anytime soon, do you?
I want to, like as I sit here talking to you, but
Well,
I'm a realist. No, I don't. I don't.
yeah. You want a lot of
Sure.
things, right? We all want a bunch of
Sure.
things we don't
Yes.
have. But yeah, if we're I love the word scale and, systems. So it's like, does 3,000 reps a year until your kids graduate might be your level, right? It might be your set point, assuming you keep your membership and, and obviously things could change, but like honestly, I don't as you're noticing, like especially doing coaching and your boys getting older, it's like the kids only get more fun.
Correct.
They get more
That's
fun,
exactly right.
which makes golf less
That's
fun,
exactly right.
right? Golf is a fucking great activity for losers without kids, right?
There's
That's,
the topic.
is
Right
that
there.
what we should
That's
call
the
the
podcast
episode?
topic. Yeah, for
No,
sure. Yeah, it's gonna go viral.
no, I'm
I know
kidding.
you
Of
are.
course, it's all
Yeah.
dosage,
Right.
right? And integration. But okay, so that's where the volume is. I think that's good. I think you could do it. I think you could stay in the 4s. I suspect if you made me pull out my crystal ball, you're gonna have a hard time getting to 3,000. And the bigger problem you might run into is that if, let's say, you booked 35 rounds last year playing, you might only get to 23 this year, right? That could be where your fall off occurs because you just don't get in enough rounds of golf. And so like, because I know you used to play at least like kind of consistently like a round a week when you were working from home,
Yes.
right? Like during
Yes.
the week. Yeah. And that may not happen this year, right?
I'm trying to set my schedule up in a way to allow me to do that, but this is also my first year here, so I've got a lot of trial
Yeah.
and error. So yeah, you could
If
absolutely be right. And
if it works out, great. If it doesn't,
if I look at my cost per round analysis on my club membership, though, I hope
Dude.
to God I get more than 23 in. But
Oh man. Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm literally pulling out this calculator yesterday because so my son, I just bought him 2 new clubs. Like he grew out of his driver. And so we've had the launch monitor out on the grass range, like setting world records. It's been so
yeah,
exciting. I bought him one size too big for the driver. So it's like a little too, he's like got a long driver. And he's getting to where like he's had some carry like, 135, which is, he's smaller for his age at 10, but Anyway, so it's exciting. We've been on the course more, and we actually haven't been on the course since like January. I think we played like one round early in the year. And it's like every time we go up, I don't know if it's still this fucking COVID hangover shit, but like it's like, we'll get out there early afternoon on a weekday, and it's still like just one cart after another at the first tee, and I'm just
Wow.
like, I don't. So I usually kind of go option it. I'll go up there, and it's like if it's not busy and I don't have to fuck with the public, then I'll do it. And we haven't been out this year, and so I started to feel bad. And we live right across the street, basically from like the world's shittiest par three golf course, and we used to play out there. That's where he got started, and I want him to be able to play because I mean he just loves it. It's like you've seen your son. It's like it is you can see the bug bite
Yep.
somebody, and it's now granted like with my son, it's like we play disc golf, racquetball, lots of basketball. We do lots of unorganized sports, pickleball, and so he's got plenty of activity, backyard football, but golf has this, of course, special place in my heart. So I'm on these golf courses websites and I'm pulling out my phone and I'm doing the fucking per round math, just like yourself. And dude, I was like, so I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I mean, I could commit to 1 day a week, right? I could do 1 day a week. And the math on that basic 35, starts a year per round is so fucking disgusting. It's basically retail. And Lord knows, as a guy who, used to work in golf, me paying retail for golf is basically never, ever going to
Sure.
happen.
Sure.
Ever. And then I was like, okay, and that's fine because that's how those things are generally priced. It's basically until you get in like the 70, 80 plus round range, you don't really hit the sweet part of the value curve, right? And I'm just like, I don't want to have that commitment to that activity. I can't get myself on the golf course because to play 2 days, I need to probably plan for three because of
Yep.
weather.
Right.
And it's like I have other things I like to do, like have coffee with my wife and go play pickleball with both of my kids at the same time and all four of us. It's like they're just so anyway, I'll welcome you to that club when it happens. But that's where it's gone for me, and I'm probably not alone in that
No, I
journey.
don't think so. And if we didn't have the proximity to the course that we do, I probably would have already stripped the membership. But and it's really honestly, it's not for me this year, especially. It's not for me as much as it is for my 11-year-old who has similarly got the bug
Loves it,
that
yeah.
yours did. And he will. I mean, he can walk across the street and be on 14 fairway, walk down the street and be on the range. And I anticipate that happening every single day in the summer. And I think about what would have to happen for my wife and I logistically to get him to a golf course to do something like that otherwise. And it's just
Oh,
not, it
yeah.
wouldn't work. So, I mean, if I factor in the amount that he's going to use it, and then I justify that I can justify that monthly nut a lot more than how much I'm going to use it because the math for me is not going to work out.
Hmm.
But if I add him in there, it'll work out, and they're gonna sucker me into paying for another couple of years so long as he enjoys the game as much as he does. So that's kind of where we are as a
Yeah.
family.
Well, even for these like this, the course we go to now, which is a public course that's owned privately, that is as good a value in the history of golf that's ever existed. And the shitty par three course, it's like the money. It's like I was looking at the numbers yesterday, and it's like it occurred to me that you could hand me $10 million and I still wouldn't buy this
Right.
product. Like there are things I don't want to
Yes.
buy,
Sure.
like
Sure.
independent of my
Yes.
own financial
Yes.
situation. So okay. Well, let's close with your world famous round of golf. I haven't heard much about it at all other than the couple of texts you sent. As a setup, I my first ever professional golf event that I attended, my my buddy and my late father and I got in a car, drove 10 hours all the way to Ohio and went to the memorial at Muirfield Village, and this is where your round of golf was. Dig into it. What
It
happened?
was, yeah, for sure. I've gone to several LPGA events, including the Solheim Cup in 21. The only PGA event I've ever been to, major, regular event, whatever, has been Muirfield. Didn't grow up going to it. My dad, obviously, I watched it on TV and thought it was cool that it was in Columbus. My dad's favorite golfer was Nicklaus. We're Ohio State fans. I knew of the course, right, but just never started going down there until I got obsessed with the game post undergrad and law school and started paying my own way to go down there. And yeah, so I've walked that course as a spectator 3, 4, 5 times in my 20s and 30s, and I've had friends that have played it, but I never had the opportunity to, and I got the opportunity to through a friend here last week. So I took him up on it. It just so everybody knows the way things are here over the last week or two. We've had nothing but rain in the Midwest. I mean, I'm assuming you probably had it out your way as well, but I mean, it has been a very, very wet spring. Our home course was closed a few days because it sits right on a river here that floods fairly consistently. It's just been a lot of rain. And leading up to the day that we played, it was the same way down in Columbus. And add that to the fact that they're trying to prepare that course for the tournament. I mean, we're 3 weeks out from the Memorial, I think, because they typically do it the week after Memorial Day. So the actual golf experience was by far the hardest the hardest course I've ever played. There isn't a close second. Up until last Thursday, the hardest course I had played was the Oaks course at TPC San Antonio, which is also where they play a PGA event. But
what made it so
the
difficult?
rough, that's it. And it was, I guess a combination of the rough and then the fact that I had no rollout on drives. So we played the white tees, which it's 6,500 yards, I think. So it's nothing insane, right? I mean, I carry driver between 260 and 270 on average. So I mean, that's but ordinarily when you carry
that.
driver 260 or 270, you expect 10, 20, 25 yards of rollout, right? And these, and I took a couple of pictures, I'll send them to you, but these were, I had at least 2 drives, carry 270, total distance 268, right? Because I mean, they back up. And so I think from those tees, if I were playing on a dry day, I would have wedge in my hand for my approach shot on these par 4s. And instead I would have, 7, 8, 9 iron. And for a guy of my skill level, it's way different standing in that.
That's where the gap, starts to spread. You wedge it to 7 iron.
And those greens, he, to his credit, does a very good job of making you uncomfortable on every approach shot, regardless of where you are in the fairway, just because of the contour of the greens and
the visuals.
And they're wide, a lot of them, but very narrow. And so you feel like you're trying to throw this thing on a dinner plate, whether you're 100, and that'd be hard enough if I was standing there 110 yards out, but if you're 150, 160 yards out standing there having to hit those shots, it's visually very intimidating.
Oh, front to back, they're shallow.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah,
so they're wide.
Yeah, wide but shallow. Yeah.
So it's uncomfortable. Every par 3 is uncomfortable, and that's all obviously by design. So if you are a player that can hit, and I hit driver really well. I guess I should say I got off the tee very well that day. I think I hit 10 of 14 fairways.
Yeah, big fairways.
Yeah, for sure.
Plenty of room to hit it.
So I only had to, hack it out of the rough, rough off the fairway 3 or 4 times. And I'm used to doing that. I have to do that at my home course too, because the rough is pretty grown up right now. So whatever, you and I text it back and forth, and when that happens, you take a wedge or whatever, take your medicine, knock it out back in the fairway, and then you're kind of playing it like a par 5. So that wasn't the problem. The issue for me is that stuff around the greens is wild. I mean, it's inches, 4, 5, 6 inches deep. And for me, at my level, and maybe this is the way the pros do it too, but the only way to handle that shot is to open up a 60-degree wedge, smack at it,
slice it,
yes,
play it like a bunker shot,
right, and then just hope that it dribbles onto the green. And if it does, it's a 20-footer for par, right? 25-footer for par. Whereas, if I can actually, I'm a decent chipper. I probably chip like a 4 handicap.
Yeah,
right?
out of normal,
right. I can,
normal rough.
If I hit a good chip shot, I can get it inside 10 feet and give myself a realistic chance for par. And in fact, that's kind of how I got my handicap down to where I did, is you helped me tighten my dispersion. So even if I missed a green, I'm not, blowing it off the planet, and I can hit a reasonable chip shot. make a handful of putts, and that's the difference between 4 or 5 pars versus 4 or 5 bogeys, right? But that was as cool as it was to see that course from the fairway, stand on the tee boxes that the pros hit the ball from, and just kind of see everything and just get to
Oh,
experience it
yeah,
inside the
so cool.
ropes. That style of golf is just I couldn't do that every day. I would lose enjoyment for the game so fast because that I felt like I got my teeth kicked in, and I just it was very uncomfortable. As cool as it was to be there,
Mm,
it was also that uncomfortable. So it was a great experience. Glad I got to do it. If I get the invite again, I'll certainly go. But it's just a different. It almost feels like a different sport in a lot of ways.
yeah. Yeah, rough that deep, especially around the greens. I mean, it's borderline like a quarter to half shot penalty,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And maybe there's a skill to that type of shot. Maybe if I practiced that, the way that I practice all the stuff you've given me, I could be a little more accurate in that 60-degree stab,
Mm,
or maybe not. Maybe I mean you watch. I guess
no,
you watch the guys do it
I'm
on.
sure you could
Yeah,
improve. Yeah. I'd like to think you could, but
but
yeah, well, I've actually, oh,
no,
go
I was
ahead,
just gonna say
please.
I've never. I rarely get the opportunity to do it. Even if I wanted to practice that shot, I don't know. I'd have to like grow that type of grass out in my yard or something. Like I don't even know.
Maybe step on the
I
ball, maybe.
guess, yeah.
It's well, yeah. There's something about like it's the level of resistance you get is hard to simulate, and so then the variance just goes through the roof, of course, with all the interference from the grass. It's like I've been, my son has. I've been teaching him kind of this, because there's some taller rough around the practice green we use, and I'm trying to teach him more of the kind of up and
Yeah.
out, choppy kind of slicey play because he doesn't really have that. He has more of kind of the little kid kind of whip it inside and flip your hands
Yep.
at it. Um, well, yeah. So, well, we'll get to your score. I'm sure people are dying to know, but the I'm assuming just a number of two chips and basically no up and downs.
I was able to get up and down, I think, twice.
Oh,
I
okay,
want to
great.
say. Yeah, every green that I hit in regulation, I made par, which was nice.
Oh, good,
And I was able to
nice.
get up and down twice. But I made 4 doubles. One of those was a lost ball and some of that rough off the fairway. One of those was a water ball. So that kind of canceled some of that out. So yeah, I ended up shooting 87, which the handicap when I read it on Gin the next day. Have you seen that PCC thing they put on the handicap now?
No,
So
no. Tell people what that is.
somehow, and I don't know how they report this, but if the course is playing more difficult on a certain day because of conditions, they actually register that, and that is factored in the GIN posting. So I've played like on super windy days before and seen like I think a +1 or a +0.5 or something like that. Well, that
Mm,
particular day, because of the wind and the wet, according to whatever golf gods do, whatever, was a
yeah.
+2, and I've never seen +2 either on my own score or even like if I'm sleuthing on people playing like before,
So does it lower your thing by two?
or
Does it lower the differential by
or
two?
increases the course rating by 2.
Well,
So
yeah, it
it's
has an
right,
effect
yes.
of making your score two strokes better.
I think, or makes the course 2 strokes harder. Maybe I'm saying maybe that's 6 of one, half dozen the other. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not sure, but yes. So my 87 registered as an 85, I guess.
Yeah.
It still is not a number that counts because it's not one of my best 8 of 20 or
You're
whatever.
not
It
one of
doesn't
your
have the little
top.
star
Yeah.
beside it. But yes, I was joking with my buddy who got me
Hmm.
on then the next day, and I screenshotted that and sent it to him and said, "I've never seen." I said, "This confirms it was playing as hard as you and I thought it was because I've never seen a PCC +2 before." So the place was
Hmm.
just brutal, brutal.
So if you got around, I'm curious if you were to say you could play that thing twice a week and, the rough could level off, say in the, you know, July, August area, it'd still be thick and tough, but not April, not April, May
Yes.
rough. What do you think that course plays compared to yours? Like, was it 2 shots harder, 5 shots harder?
I, I think five's a good number, honestly. I
About
think
five
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 shots
shots
harder is
harder
a
than
good
your
number.
course?
Yeah.
Is that reflected in the rating and slope? I don't know the numbers.
Well, here I can. I think no. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that extreme from those tees.
Like closer to 2 or 3.
I would say probably 2 or 3. Yeah, I'm pulling up the Gannett.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Now.
Okay.
Post stats. Yeah, so it was my home. The tees I play from are 70.6 and 131.
Okay.
And Muirfield that day from the whites was 72.1, so that's 1.5 more, and 144 versus 131.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. So if you maybe take some time to adjust to the rough, but with that slope, like okay, all right, that was great. As always, thank you so much for doing this. I can't believe you still do it, and I'm so happy that you do.
I'm enjoying it. I'll keep coming on until you kick me off.
Right.
So let me know.
Okay, thanks, Zach.